Hello, fans. And for those of you that are new here, my name's Tyler. I talk about my life, in particular my story of child abuse, growing up, and surviving, and foster care. Today, I would like to tell my story about me living in foster care, as foster care is not easy, as most of us can imagine. Moving from home to home every week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, a year. For me, my average home was about 3 months. My longest home that I stayed in was 4 months. I was in the foster care system from November 2019 to September of 2020. I was a victim of something called Munchausen syndrome by proxy. For those of you that don't know what that is, there's a good TV show on Hulu called The Act. I recommend going and watching it. It explains it way better than I can. But it's when a caregiver, in my case a mother, and in the case of the TV show, makes their child sick and is diagnosed with mental illnesses, has a bunch of surgeries or medical procedures for money, fame, recognition, whatever. In my case, I was told by doctors in 2019 when I was taking that they don't think I would have made 6 months, more months. So I was saved just in time. But when I entered foster care, it was a hard time. What I tell people is, imagine being 2 years old and your favorite stuffed animal automatically goes somehow, some way, mysteriously goes missing. You're heartbroken. It's your favorite stuffed animal, right? Well, take the feeling you would have of crying in pain and times that by 200, and you're pretty close to what a foster child would feel. It's not easy. And once we enter the system, we feel, I explained it as we're saved from one abusive home to get put in a few more. The foster care system's crooked in many ways. In many ways, the foster care system is more of a business to a lot of foster parents than it is taking care of the foster kids. And a part of that is those foster parents tend to be the abusive ones. Give kids not very much clothing. They're constantly in ripped clothes, going to school, getting fun of. I was bullied a couple times in foster care, I'm not gonna lie, because of the clothes I wore at the time. You come to bed stinking, go to bed stinking, and wake up stinking, and go to school stinking. It was a normal way of life. In one of my foster homes in particular, we were lucky if we got dinner. Most of the time, the only thing we got was what was at school and breakfast that morning. And then on weekends, we really only eat once a day because that's how crooked foster parents are. Another one, I had a foster parent grab me here by the neck, twist my shirt real tight, and pick me up. Try to pick me up. They didn't succeed because I was 14, 15, weighed over 100 pounds. But the truth of the matter is, foster care isn't easy, and it's hard to talk about, actually. There's also some good foster parents. I mean, there's ones I lived with where, they treat you like family. They take you on family reunions. They take you to a cookout. I had one foster parent that, they were like, oh, what do you like doing when I first arrived? I was like, oh, I love anything outdoors, hiking, fishing, pretty much anything. And they're like, okay, cool. The dad turned out to love those things, so we went out every weekend. It was normal. It treated us like a family and like allowance and doing chores. It was like a normal family, which is something you don't tend to see. People always talk about, oh, foster parents are such great people. They help so much for these kids. Yeah, some of them. Most of them. In 2019, it was established that 28% of foster youth, it was proven that they were abused in the system. 28. Remind you, in 2019, there was 400 something thousand kids in the United States foster care system alone. Another thing that's messed up is those of us that age out. I mean, we get basically in some states, many states, the day a kid turns 18, it's okay. There you go live on the street if you don't have nowhere to go. Here's a couple $100 every month, although it ain't shit. It's maybe one couple days worth of groceries and a set of clothes. I mean, it's nothing. We go out here and it's like 30 something percent graduate high school from foster care, and only 2 to 3% graduate with a 4-year degree, and only like 4% graduate with a 2-year degree, and 6% try to get a degree but doesn't succeed. And that's because we're surrounded on people that won't help us. We don't know nothing. Oftentimes in high school, you don't know anything about college, especially when you're worried about surviving in foster care and your whole life. You don't look at those things, but you want to go to college, and it's not easy, and so you don't have anyone to guide you. And then finances. The government ain't gonna pay for your school. You may be foster care, but they ain't gonna pay for that crap. So oftentimes they look to scholarships, and these people, it's hard to get a job in foster care because business owners look at you as a lost cause. Because as soon as they see that foster care title, they're like, "Oh, screw this kid. I don't need that. They're not reliable because they may not have transport or this or this or this." It's stupid. I mean, we're set up to fail in many cases. I mean, I live in a great home now. I live with my biological parents, my father, and my stepmom. I don't live with my mother anymore. I mean, hope to never. But life is not easy in the system. It never will be until Congress steps up and says, "Oh, shoot, there is something messed up. We need to fix this." It's not. States can't do nothing. They can, but they're not going to. Congress needs to step up, and they need to put in guidelines to help this and make change. I mean, I remember one time when I was in foster care, I think it was my 12th home out of my 22 homes I was in foster care. I would purposely miss the school bus back to my foster home because I knew if I walked it would take like 2 hours to get home to the foster home, and that was better than sitting in front of those foster parents cursing us out, abusing us, and all these things. But this specific day when I entered foster care, my biological mother was actually taken from a hospital room by security, and it was probably 30 days of me being in the hospital, and I hadn't heard anything. DSS, Department of Social Services, eventually comes and says, "We're so sorry, we got lost track, blah blah, we have 400 cases on each caseworker's docket," or something ridiculous, and blah blah blah, and you should be going into a foster home next week, by the weekend. Remind you, I'm 14 years old and didn't even know what foster care was, and I'm like, what? And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna find you a place to stay while we sort this out." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." Little did I know what that meant. What that meant was I would spend many, many days on end crying my eyes out, being abused, neglected all over again. Foster care is not easy. Remind you, when we leave one home, oftentimes we're given black, heavy-duty trash bags to put our stuff in. Trash bags. Not a suitcase, a trash bag. What? Like, why? And then these little kids are doing the same thing, and they're like, and that's making them feel like they're trash. Imagine having to lug your belongings around in a trash bag for every home you go to for a year, and you're in 22 separate homes. The system's crooked. It's all about money. I mean, there's nonprofits that help, but they can't do everything. The government needs to put their foot down and say enough is enough. I mean, like, come on. 28%? Come on now. 33% graduate high school? Really? What are we doing to these foster youth? I mean, like, come on. I mean, I tell my friends all the time, I have a couple friends that are in foster care now in high school, and I tell them all the time, we not be related, but we can relate as foster brothers and sisters, because that's what we are. There's no such thing as former foster youth. There isn't. You always, the title sticks, because that's how bad it is, and foster youth have to stick together for life, because that's the only thing we can do, is comfort each other. Anyways, I just wanted to pop in and say a little bit more. I'll come back in a few days, and maybe I'll talk more about this, or maybe I'll talk about my specific abuse, but till later, peace out.